Roll call,
I
Ms.
have
Houle.
my hat up.
Ms. Gardner, here. Mr. Jake,
I did. I'm here.
Mr. Wareham,
I'm here.
Mr. Halkola,
Here.
here.
We have a quorum, all members are present. The next item on our proposed agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us, rise, remove your hat if applicable, and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Item 4 on our proposed agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I will make that motion, but we have to add under approval of minutes, the November 2nd meeting, special meeting minutes onto that.
We're adding approval of the November 2nd special meeting.
I'll support.
So we have a motion and support, now with an addition. Are there other additions to the agenda?
Do we have to add this?
That's an action item under Osceola Township Board, or Water Board.
I would think, because we have to approve this, right?
Right.
Is
But
this-
we can just
So it's
do
under
it under there.
9.C.1?
I like it.
Which one?
Apparently it's under
No,
there somewhere.
when we get to C, then we'll do it.
9C.
We don't have to add it, do we?
That's what I'm wondering, do we have to do that?
No.
or do we not?
We're talking about adding the minutes from the,
No, the approval of our record, the joint.
oh, the recommendation, yeah, that's that's the action item, yeah.
Okay,
Do you have, I know you have the Elm Street Restoration Plan tabled. Do you have any, as a part of your supervisor's report, do you have anything from the county? We had some, there was some concerns that you were gonna talk to them about, in terms of the paving, like big puddles and stuff like that. And
There is a list of items that I intend to meet with Mr. Seema about.
so we don't need to add that item there.
We don't have that, but bring it up under my report. I'll gladly talk about it.
Okay, all right. I was just wondering if there was any more, there was an item to talk about there or not.
If I may add a couple of items for your consideration to add to the agenda. One is the requested land split in Tamarack City. Part of the assessor's report also offers a recommendation relative to the land split. It has been tabled, we would have to take it off the table. It can stay tabled until we get a chance to review all the material, some of which is here in additional information. There's also in your packet a draft salary rate table that is a computation, I think that's the correct way to phrase it, of all of the discussions we've had with some recommendations for possible action. And then I've had an opportunity to talk with Mr. Herkus and with Mr. Koppel about the North End Sewage Authority position that Mr. Koppel held through the end of his term in September. He is interested and did write a quick note saying that he would request being reappointed, but I was uncertain when I talked with him about what our protocol is relative to the authorities and boards that we appoint people to. So I'm obviously deferring to the board as to how to respond to the request. Their next meeting is the end of November. We meet on the 8th of December, and if it requires posting at all, it may necessitate us waiting until then to fill the vacancy. So I'm simply alerting you to that at this time, asking if you want it on as an agenda item, or if we simply proceed by posting the position and then waiting for a response other than the one I've already received from Mr. Koppel.
I guess you gotta look at our protocol, do we need someone else?
Well, I don't know, Don, and that's just it. I've gone into the MTA manual just a few, hour and a half ago to look at appointments to, and it's silent on the issue. It talks about authorities at all, water and things like that, but it does not talk about how people get appointed. I've gotta get into the bylaws of the organizations. And I don't have the North End Sewage Authority bylaws handy. I found a folder in the file cabinet. It was the 2018 minutes. So find anything on point, I'm gonna have to call up there and get a copy, in all likelihood. But we do have a vacancy, Mr. Capo is interested, understands the circumstance. So. That's all I have, we can put it on the agenda, we can suffice to address it as we already have, I can comment further during my report.
I mean, my idea would be if we don't have to do anything else, just accept that, but if we have to do something else, I guess we do. I don't know.
As you said, I don't know either.
Yeah, so I guess we can't do much more.
So we're taking it off the agenda.
Yeah, I was, it's not on the agenda, but I was suggesting as a possible addition, so it needed to be added, and I'll address it during my report. So draft salary table and the land split are the only things that I would suggest adding to the agenda, if that's the board's pleasure.
What would you like then?
Under unfinished business, the land split, because it's been tabled, and the draft salary is in your packet. It's the, combining all of the discussions we've had, including at the last special meeting on the budget, for the board's consideration this evening. That would be under new business,
What are we putting under new business?
the salary table. And the land split would be under old business.
Okay.
So we now have a motion and support for the agenda as amended. Are there any additions from anybody else's perspective? Hearing none.
I wonder if,
Go ahead, Aaron.
just looking at it, I wonder if we shouldn't be like, instead of like, we have reports and unfinished business, and I wonder if we should have like a tabled business section or something to track whatever's tabled at the time. You understand where I'm going with that? So like you have unfinished business number 10, and then maybe number 11 would be tabled items or something, and, I mean, do you track, how many things are tabled right now? Is it just the one, or is there more than one?
Well, the Elm Street thing was tabled. The action being requested on Mason Sewer's leases or licenses has been tabled. And the land split was tabled. So we have 3 items.
Because those are like different, those are a different type of action, because they gotta be untabled to be.
Yes, they do, sir.
You
You're
know,
absolutely
so
right.
I'm wondering if, just to make sure those things keep out there, that if we should extend our agenda to have another section, I guess, of tabled items.
Would
that
it
we
be
can address or
appropriate for us to have identified unfinished and then a separate column that deals solely on the unfinished business with items that are tabled, so we bring that to the board's attention?
I'm throwing that out there as a way to keep those in, they can sit in that section for three months for
We
all
don't
I
have to
care.
act on it every month.
So
At least
tabled
we
business
see
under
it.
unfinished.
That's what
and
I'm
then-
getting at,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
something could sit in there but it's being, we're still aware that it's out there,
Right.
you know?
Okay.
I don't know,
Right.
cause it seems like we have a bunch of tabled items, and
I
We
kinda
do right
like
now.
it, cause all of a sudden nobody comes back and it was tabled, it's like crap, I forgot we didn't table.
that's what I'm sitting here thinking, he knows they're tabled, but like the one is tabled and not really even, wasn't even on here, which one was your?
The land
The land split.
Land division one, yeah,
I forgot
so
all about that actually.
I'm thinking, man, if they're tabled, they eventually have to be acted on, we gotta have a list of them somewhere. I think maybe this is the place to do it.
Okay.
We'll make that adjustment going forward with the next agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Point well made. We have a suggestion then on the
Suggestion.
agenda. But we're
Suggestion.
still focused on the agenda now for tonight's meeting.
Mhm.
That is a suggestion going forward, if I may.
Yeah, there might not be anything under it for a year, but
Yeah.
right now we got,
We'll have a header under
Yeah.
unfinished business.
Yeah.
Items table.
okay.
With that suggestion for future agendas in mind, and a motion on the floor relative to the current agenda as amended, are there any additions to the amended agenda from anyone? If not, I will call for a vote.
Aye.
No? All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as amended, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries, we have an agenda. Thank you. Item 5, approval of the October 13th meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So I have a second loose one here, is there something?
There should be something in your primary board packet right behind the agenda that says
You just
October
got two
13th.
copies.
Got it.
This one is a special meeting.
No,
This is
They
not
say-
a meeting, this is a special meeting.
I don't know, there was a loose one under, with this, and I'm just wondering if it was, if
Oh,
they're the
'cause
same.
we probably stuck it in Bob's packet, which
Okay,
is why
okay,
you're
I
probably
just
stuck
wanna
it.
make
Yeah.
sure that they're the same.
And we assumed you were.
There wasn't like a newer version or something
No,
like that.
no.
Sometimes that does.
Bob
happen.
already had one, and that's Bob's packet.
Okay,
That was
okay,
yours
okay.
for your packet.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve, we're on the October 13th.
On the October
Okay.
13th
I'll
meeting
make that
minutes, we have a motion to approve
I
the
have this
minutes
one
as
as well.
presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes for the October 13th meeting as presented? Suggested changes, additions, deletions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the minutes for the October 13th, 2021 Township Board meeting, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We now have the Osceola Township Special Meeting, November 2nd, minutes.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion to accept the minutes from the special meeting held on November 2nd, 2021.
I'll
Is there
support.
support?
Go ahead.
Multiple supports?
Don
Multiple
can do it.
supports.
Mr. Wareham? Okay. We have a motion and support for the special meeting minutes. Are there any suggested changes, additions, deletions to those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the minutes for the Osceola Township Board special meeting held on November 2nd, 2021, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next item on our agenda is financial reports. In your packet, you should find financial reports for the township, the road fund, Mason wastewater fund, TC Water, Tamarack City, and OT or Osceola Township Water.
We're still missing.
Yes.
Yep.
You mean you didn't just stay late after that meeting and fill that out?
Well, we're waiting on the salary table
No.
to be completed, to complete the whole entire budget, if that makes sense. So bear with us, please.
You have the standard reports, profit and loss, balance sheet, check detail, deposit detail, etc. Duly noted that the profit and loss budget versus actual continues to be minus the budget at this moment, but should be addressed by the December meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the financial reports as presented?
A motion.
A motion from Ms. Houle to accept the financial reports as presented. Is there a support?
I'll support it.
Mr. Wareham supports. We have a motion and support for the financial reports from the Township, Road Fund, Mason Wastewater Fund, TC Water Fund, and OT, Osceola Township Water Fund. Any questions, comments, or concerns relative to those reports prior to calling for a vote on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the financial reports for Township, General Township, Road Fund, Mason Wastewater Fund, TC Water, and OT Water, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approving the payment of the bills, the General Fund, Road Fund, Mason Fund, TC Water Fund, and OT Water Fund. The financials have been on the table for your review. There are any anomalies, Ms. Houle, in the bills that have been paid?
Ricolas, we just paid the final audit bill, so there's a big one in there on the general. But other than that, it's,
So the audit for last year has been paid in full.
yes.
Thank you for that.
The $98,000.
No, $98,000.
That stopped me, I
It
swallowed
flipped on
hard
me and I
when you
said
said that.
98,000, what the hell?
The last 7,800
Don't make me open this back up again.
I'd have to start kicking myself if that's what it was.
Do I have a motion to approve payment of the bills from the general fund, road fund, Mason fund, TC water, and OT water funds?
Move.
I'll support.
Ms. Gardner moves, is there support?
Sure.
He
Mr.
moved.
Mr.
What?
Janke moved?
He did.
I thought you were gonna get her,
I
she
got
said
Janke
something too.
first.
Okay.
You,
Yes.
yes, okay.
Do we have Mr. Janke's motion, Ms. Gardner supported?
Yes.
Yes.
My error?
No.
Any further discussion on the motion to approve payment of the bills? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Anyone present at the Township Board meeting will have up to 3 minutes to offer input for board consideration. Please identify yourself when you begin speaking, and the floor will be yours for 3 minutes. Anyone present interested in offering comment to the Township Board?
I got a quick question.
Mr.
Jim
Sierra?
Sierra. How hard would it be to figure out how much water usage we have in a month just for Mason? So I was thinking if I gave those figures to Andy, maybe he could crunch them and tell us if we got enough flow coming down from the meters, but you were saying everybody's under 4,000. Would that be a big problem for you? That's what happens when I sit here, I start thinking.
No, it just takes me a few minutes to go. I've got them permanently set in a table because I have to go back through them over and over a couple of times a week
Could
looking
you
for
just
stuff.
email it to me there and I'll pass them on to Andy?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else have a question or comment for the board's consideration? Hearing none, we'll close this public comment session. Please know that there will be a second opportunity for public comment at the end of our meeting before we adjourn. Reports. Number of reports in your packets. Let's start with the Assessor Report. You will notice on there that there is a recommendation relative to the land split. There's also additional information in this folder provided. The assessor, if anybody would like to look at it, it's a little bit more descriptive. Put it in that folder for our utilization. I apologize for not having copies for everyone, but I'd be glad to make them if you would like it. But the gist of the recommendation is found in her report. You'll also find a maintenance report in your folder, or packet, I should say. The next report would be the Osceola Township Water, or more appropriately, the Utility Board action items. We do have an action item relative to no trespassing signs for the Mason Sewer Project's septic area, is that right?
Drainfield.
Drainfield, I apologize, stand corrected, drainfield. Recommendation coming up from the Water Board.
I've never actually been up there. Does it cross the road up there then? Or is it off to one side?
It's off to one side. You
There
gotta
was an
drive
old
in.
railroad track that went, or an old road or something, right? That old grade?
Yeah, there's a road that goes back into the
I
woods.
think it was an actual rail grade or something at one time, I think, but I'm not sure. But it, yeah. But it is totally to the side of that.
Yeah,
Okay. Anyways, yeah, go ahead.
So there's a report there, we do have an action item. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendation from the Water Board that no trespassing signs be purchased and placed at or near the drain field?
Motion.
Ms. Houle, is there support?
Support.
Mr. Wareham? Everyone's heard the motion, is there further discussion on the motion? So we'll be expending revenue, a roll call vote please, to purchase the signs.
Ms. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Janke,
Sure.
Mr. Wareham.
Yes.
This is gonna be well below 500 though, I'm sure.
Oh,
Yes.
Ask me?
Yes.
Yes. All set. Yeah, and I apologize, I know it's probably not that expensive for a couple of signs and or posts, but of course I have it when we're spending money as an action item at the board.
Do we have to approve
The
the
minutes?
utility minutes as well?
there's another item that we would take up at this time, so,
The joint.
yeah, is there, well, the joint utility board, minutes need to be approved by the Tamarack City Board. There isn't a
Before
need
we
for
can.
this board to approve them because they're the minutes of the utility boards.
Oh,
Okay,
that's true.
I
So we've
took
already
that-
taken
did,
that, yeah.
took
I
that
took
on
it
too.
backwards. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
we're good, it goes to Tamarack City for approval when they're
Okay.
done.
All right.
We just
got
get
it.
the minutes presented that have been approved by
I
the
wrote it
members
down too.
attending the joint meeting. There, any other items from the, utility board that you believe need our attention? Hearing none, Dollar Bay Fire Department, report.
Should be a written report that.
Yep, I believe there's a first responders report, Tamarack City Fire, Tamarack City Utility Board, Torch Lake Sewage Authority, and supervisors.
So,
Mr. Janke.
I know we're not approving the minutes, but what happened to wasn't there some recommendations by the utility board?
Yes, right there, that's what we talked about earlier.
What is
And
the
then do you wanna
recommendation?
do you want, I thought we were doing it under the Osceola Township, but it's not really water board
No,
action
it's-
items.
It's an action item coming up to the board relative to the
Joint committee.
joint committee.
Which
So-
is not really on here, which is why, you're saying it was an action item, right? But it's
Yep.
not really on, it's not under Osceola Township Water Board action
Yeah, it
item.
shouldn't be.
It's
May I
its own-
offer a
it's its own-
suggestion that we amend the agenda to include that action item under new business?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. We're talking about the recommendation relative to past due accounts.
Yes.
So we're gonna talk about, say it was gonna be 9C.1 or something,
Yeah.
it's not really that.
It's not, it will address it if the board's receptive as an amendment under new business, a new item to act on the recommendation coming up from the joint water boards. Do I have a motion to that effect to add that item at this time?
Wow,
That's
yeah, that
We're-
is. Who moved? You did?
I do,
Yeah,
yeah.
Mr. Janke moves that we add that
The-
item
the
as
other-
an action item under new business. The recommendation from the joint water board.
I'll second.
And a second from Ms. Houle. Is there any further discussion on the motion to add the recommendation coming up from the joint water board meeting?
I know this is shooting my own motion in the foot, but the other thing is we could not call it water board action items and call it utility board action items, because it's not, there's no water board anymore.
I'll just put it.
It is
where
a
it makes sense.
off-use term that needs to disappear from my vocabulary, I apologize. This is the joint utility board's meeting
Yes,
for clarification, so the
Okay.
motion is their recommendation.
Yep.
Water is always in brackets going forward, and these are utility boards.
it'll be okay.
We'll get that, but we've added the recommendation from the joint utility boards meeting under new business through the motion. We have not yet voted on the motion. All in favor of the addition, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We have a second item under new business.
All right.
Supervisor's report. Oh, I practiced.
Yeah?
Item number one, the no parking sign that we discussed on the utility pole in your packet is a letter from UPCO. The letter had almost immediate impact on receipt by the homeowner. The sign's gone. Vet banners, there was a meeting on the 28th at the VA office between myself and Mike up there. Last name escapes me, I apologize. We're going to put ourselves in a position for banners going up in the spring of next year. I've yet to hear from the TC Fire Department relative to their decision. Conversation with individual members, they certainly appear to be in favor, but I don't believe they've taken formal action to assist with the hanging of the banners. I've also raised with Mike the Osceola Township residents who have banners up in other communities, most notably Hubble, and we will work together to bring those banners back to Osceola Township. Or conceivably, the families may wanna have one hanging in Hubble by the VFW post and purchase a second one to hang in Tamarack City. From a personal standpoint, the most important thing that I got out of the meeting on banners was that I don't have a lot of pictures, being a veteran, of me standing by myself doing something. I asked if there could be more than one person in the picture, and they said absolutely if it's relevant or germane. And I have a favorite picture of myself and my wife that I would like to, if I purchase a banner, which I'm planning on, once this all gets approved, hang personally. So thank you for letting me drop into something personal on this note, but it's a pretty nice black and white picture from Fort Riley, Kansas. So anyway, I'll bore you with it later if you're interested. Christmas lights have become a topic of interest here in Dollar Bay. Know that there are lights up in Tamarack City. We've asked about sizes and costs there, gotten some informal feedback, but there have been 2 ad hoc meetings between Christa, myself, and Rick Greb about getting big decorations versus the string lights that are currently up on the poles for the Christmas in 2022. When we flush this out a little further, I believe Mr. Greb will be bringing it to the board in a formal way, asking for participation and our involvement in the process. But we've already alerted the power company, and I've got to work through some issues with UPCO. Not just the normal routine things that should we give it the green light going forward for utilization of their poles for not just veterans banners, but larger Christmas decorations as they are purchased and become available in the community.
How large are they talking?
Well, we're talking, they range in size from a few feet to several feet. They range in cost from a few hundred to several thousand. So,
Tamarack, that's the size you're looking at.
I'm just curious, I mean, they made us so we can't go across this, you can't hang lights across the street anymore, and I'm wondering what they're gonna say about this, you know, so.
the power company seems to be favorably inclined because they would not be permanent. They would not stay up all year. And again, if the fire department is willing to put them up, we'd be putting up things analogous to, snowflakes, candy canes, etc.
Yeah.
Size and shapes and whatever.
Some places just have
We-
snowflakes all through town, looks like.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No decisions have been made,
Calumet, I think.
but the
Or
discussions
Wareham,
have been
one of the
meaningful.
Is it like Linden? Yeah.
Okay.
We do have an ordinance prohibiting recreational marijuana outlets. It's in your packet, it's an ordinance dating back to 2018. The maintenance position has been posted, there is interest. We've had a couple of inquiries and one individual indicating that probably within the next 2 to 5 working days, he'll be dropping off an application. And this is a gentleman with a maintenance background. He did talk with Scott. Scott has availed himself for the next several weeks relative to snowplow. His last day with us officially will be the 19th, if I recall correctly. In a unscheduled but meaningful conversation with our former maintenance person, he has indicated his availability relative to plowing, excuse me, should drink a little more water, plowing if need be. I'm not sure what flowing would be.
I don't know either.
Yeah, did I create a new word? I doubt it. So Dale's interested and would assist with plowing if it becomes an issue. So I'm hopeful we'll receive at least a single application from an interested party. There are probably others out there contemplating as we speak. We've already talked about the secretary, office manager, water secretary position, and we continue to post it, advocate for it, and encourage people to put applications in. None have happened yet. Ice rink bids, the bid was accepted, as you recall at our most recent meeting, budget meeting, and TWE has been notified orally, as has Webben, that they did not receive the bid. I believe that, Christa, was it you that prepared 2 drafts for consideration?
Yep.
Put them on my desk, they look very good. I'm gonna tweak them slightly, but I did indicate when I talked to them, we'd send them something formal. I've not heard back as to status. Did ask about treated wood. After the offer had been accepted, and Travis at TWE said he'd look into it, get me prices quickly. Don't have them yet. Check my email before tonight's meeting. So I'm guessing he's proceeding, but
To put treated plywood on the face.
To put, the boards made out of treated plywood.
Yeah.
I don't have the cost for that part yet, but we accepted the offer of 3/4 inch or whatever, and the larger rink. We will be forwarding the material probably early next week to our insurance adjuster.
Okay.
I talked with Zane Herkus in the last 24 hours about the snowmobile trail meeting. He's with OHM, and he has accepted an invitation to come to our December meeting to talk about where they are with that process. There is a letter in your packet from Charter relative to franchise renewal. It is a standard state-developed franchise language agreement. It's done every 10 years. Our current franchise fee is 3%. That's what we draw. I have called Pat Greeley. He said it'd take him about 30 minutes to look through it. It has not gone down to him yet. Pat's gonna take a quick look at it to see if there's anything that we need to worry about. 11 years ago, 10 years ago, when Nick provided input, he suggested something around inquiries for information around telecommunications at all. I'm sort of paraphrasing the letters, that it's something you need to be cognizant of and watch out for. That was located earlier today, alerted Pat to that. We'll send it down, I think we'll have an answer from him. Joan, who I spoke with Charter, indicated that if we take action on the franchise agreement on the 8th of December and forwarded to her after taking that action, that'll be just fine. They just
It was
need.
really 10 years ago since we did that? It didn't seem like 10 years ago.
Remember
I
at
do
one
remember
time,
it.
part of that thing was 2 fire departments in this township.
We
And
lost
here, got all that free.
We lost our free
We lost
charter
free
because of that.
charter because of that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. We used to get it free, all 3 things got it for free.
We used to get it free and now we don't.
Yeah, I didn't see anything, any offer of free stuff in this one either.
It was negotiated before, but when we redid this,
Yeah.
we lost it, plain and simple.
Yeah. There is a new beach contact process. You have the letter in your packet. It came from the health department. Tim Gasparich will be at the Tamarack City Utility Board meeting, got it right this time, talking about the Michigan American purchase by Calumet Township. Mr. Sullivan will be joining us, I think, by phone relative to that meeting. But looking forward to hearing from Tim and seeing where he was invited to our meeting on the 8th as well, but his schedule has a conflict. Wondered if he could come in January, and I said you'd be more than welcome, and he can bring us up to date on where they are with the purchase agreement, what have you. Had a recent conversation as early as I think Monday of this week with Tim Polisari about the corner down here by the storage unit and all the white goods that have piled up there. He's supposed to call me, I thought today, or apparently he'll be calling me tomorrow to set up a meeting in the next few days for breakfast to talk about both getting rid of the white goods on the corner and then his offer around junk cars in our ordinance for the spring of next year. The 3 items that I identified earlier that are on the agenda we'll address when we get to them, and that is the end of my report. Any questions on any of these items?
Just real quick, Ed's up there paying 5 cents a pound for white goods. So we hauled a bunch of stuff up there from our waterworks garage. So they are paying 5 cents a pound for white, washers, dryers, stoves.
Ed's is owned by Polisari also,
Yeah.
is it not?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's Tim's business.
Okay,
His last conversation with me prior to Monday was, he's having difficulty, I think, rounding up help to help him move it. I said, we really gotta get it out of there
I think.
before winter, so he's cognizant of it.
Pay his taxes with as much stuff as there.
There's a lot there.
Yeah,
It's
there
quite
is.
a pile.
The pile seems to grow
Daily.
daily, okay,
Yeah, it's daily.
yeah, he's aware of it, so hopefully it'll be a productive meeting and we'll have a schedule for getting it out of there quickly.
Okay.
Any other questions of me? If none, we'll move on to unfinished business. Elm Street Restoration Plan table. Is it the desire of the board to untable that and begin a discussion on that? Or to leave it tabled at this moment and perhaps bring it up at a future meeting? I'm not sure that even if we wanted to, at this moment, much could be done as the weather is turning sour and the availability of people to do things may or may not be present. There is a national holiday coming up a week from Monday. Excuse me, next Monday. Forgive me. Not Veterans Day. Don got it.
I did.
Yeah.
So did I.
Yeah, so did Jim. For those of us that do not hunt, as I've shared with you, I hit them with my automobile and or Equinox or whatever I happen to be driving. Anyway, for those going out, I wish you the best of luck and be safe out there, but what is the board's pleasure relative to this, or continue to leave it tabled?
I mean, do we have any new information or anything?
Just the request I alluded to.
I kinda like your statement that there's not much we can do about it. I think that allows us a little more time to go to see what's gonna happen with some of this funding for maybe, for it. And maybe your response to those people that are calling would be, say, we're pursuing additional funding to see if we can include that as a part of this work.
I think that's an excellent idea because we don't have direction yet relative to the COVID stimulus money, although that is coming in, is it not?
Yeah.
Christa? I mean,
The first half, yes.
We've gotten the first half of it already,
Okay.
and plans are due in the late winter, early spring, so that it will be a topic of discussion going forward. But we don't have guidance yet as to how that money is to be used, and that is, I believe, a state issue to provide for us, is it not?
Well, it's a federal issue,
They're federal money, but they're.
communicating it down to the state to, yeah.
I mean, is there some stuff too that's gonna be attached to that? I'm sure since it's federal money and stuff, it's gonna have wages attached to it, and it's a whole new game when you start looking at that,
Good.
that part, you know, so, whatever numbers you have in your head, you might as, you know, when we start talking that, you might have to throw those away, cause, it's probably gonna be different, utilizing that money and the specifications in the front end that's gonna end up going with that kind of work, using that money for what we're talking about, which is, if that's the only thing we're allowed to use it for, I guess I'm on board, although I see a $70,000 pump in
Yeah.
our future too, and I say, that's pretty important also, so.
That's also infrastructure.
Yes,
Are we?
plus the controls down there.
Done.
I don't wanna get into this Elm Street.
Well,
I
Ed,
think for other
to
reasons,
discuss it further, we really need to take it off the
First
table.
Well,
Yeah,
we do.
Yeah, so I
Take it off, because
But you provided me with some information I can share with people, and until we get guidance, we really don't have an answer about its use, so.
I mean, at this point, my feeling is that I'm not interested in paying for it, so until we see some other kind of
Yeah.
thing, I don't know why I would wanna take it, but there's three of you guys, and me and Don are over here, so maybe you guys have a different feeling.
Well, I think given that it's tabled, any more discussion on it, would have to take it off the table, so we'll leave it as is.
Yep.
We'll explain to the people that it's still tabled, we're waiting guidance on the COVID money, and we have no idea what's gonna happen with the $1,000,000,001 newly passed federal infrastructure bill. And but I don't wanna delve into that because it'd be pure speculation on my part, but it did pass, and sooner or later, that money's gonna be coming out, so.
I mean, I do realize, and I know you don't wanna talk about too much longer here, Don, but I do realize
No,
that,
it's gonna be-
that the hard part about this is the deadline that we were put against, for the county paving portion of this forced us to move at an accelerated rate that did not allow us to adequately warn these people what was coming, like we did for the sewer services, for instance, you know, I mean, those people in Mason had adequate time to know what they were getting into, and we just pounded us out because of the timetable we were against. I felt like we got a really good deal for what we did, but obviously we've created a little bit of hardship here too, so.
Hopefully we'll come to a satisfactory resolution across the board down the road. But you're right, we were up against other.
Yeah, I mean,
criteria deadlines.
wasn't just water lines that we were doing here, so, you know, that's part of, I'm just putting it out there, so it's as a part of it.
And people have been very understanding, patient, and are willing to,
So I guess what I was saying is,
Discuss.
I understand where they're coming from, you know, so. Okay,
moving off to item B, we have tabled at past meetings, the Mason Sewer Mdot leases. In your packet is information from our insurance company indicating that the cost of the liability insurance would be very tiny or non-existent, if I'm interpreting it correctly.
It won't raise our premium at all.
Won't raise our premium, and
Okay.
we will have the required amount for each of the licenses / leases. I have the documents with me if anybody would like to review them again, but the state is waiting for our action on this. We would have to take them off the table if we choose to address that this evening, and then vote, I would believe, up or down on accepting the leases as offered. Do I have a motion to remove the Michigan Department of Transportation, or MDOT, rail corridor long-term occupancy licensing agreements from the table?
I'll
Both
make
the
it.
water and sewer. Do I have a motion?
B.
Ms. Gardner, is there support?
I'll support.
Motion and support to remove them from table. No additional comment? All in favor of the motion to take the item off the table, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We now can discuss the lease agreements offered by the Michigan Department of Transportation for use of the rail corridor, Woodside to Mason, Dollar Bay to Mason for our water service line and our sewer service line. Two separate agreements, one at the cost of $99 annually, the other at $135 annually. What is the board's pleasure? Is there a motion to accept the offers from MDOT?
I mean, you're saying at this time, we've basically exhausted all
We have to.
avenues.
We,
That-
We have to.
There's nothing we can do about it at this
We
point.
can't do anything about the $2 million liability we now have to carry instead of, I can't believe our insurance is going up for $1 million, but.
yeah, no, he said it won't.
I mean, at this point, my understanding is there's nothing we can do, and we've poked every corner that we can look at.
We've asked all the questions, we've followed every opportunity, and we're still digging to see if there's
I mean,
even.
there's no reason why we couldn't continue and still maybe,
Well, Absolutely.
you know, if something comes up, you know, but,
It was I had reached out to Crystal Morgan, the attorney that we used for Dark Store,
Mhm.
and she didn't think she could help us, but she referred us to somebody else. And when
okay,
I sent him the information, he agreed basically with what Pat had said, that
there's nothing you
there's
can do.
nothing we can really do. He suggested, Mark, possibly, talking to our elected officials, to
Sure.
see if we can, so I
So
think
that
that's
would be the
gonna
only next
that
thing
would
is
be our
talk
only,
to,
yeah, I mean, we've
our rep and
literally ran
our
this.
senator or whatever it is, yeah,
Yep.
okay.
And those conversations can take place even with the lease or licensing
In
agreements
place.
in place.
Yes.
Going forward, we can look for some type of relief.
Yeah.
There is a termination clause that, that's in the agreement that we could execute as well as them. The biggest concern we had, was beyond the leases themselves and the cost was the timeline, being a 5-year lease with no automatic renewal. But again, they have indicated through various sources that these are now their standard timeframes for these kinds of leases. So again, we're locked in, by proving these. We would have to make payment. One footnote, if I may offer this, is in conversation with Jim Koskanimi at,
I was just gonna say that.
well, please, you talk to him as well.
Oh, well, he did mention it to me, but I was gonna say that at least we can cover the initial 5 years under the project.
He thinks.
Mhm.
He's hopeful if we take action tonight relative to the sewer project, we might be able to get the first $495 if they will accept a 5-year payment on the
It's a
lease.
part of the grant.
Yeah.
Part of it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As part of the grant.
Mhm.
And that would absolve the ratepayers of that cost upfront. So I think if we have a,
We wouldn't have to look at a rate
Yeah.
change because of that for at least
Exactly.
5 years.
Right.
do I have a motion to accept the licensing agreements with the understanding that relative to the sewer, we would asked the state if we may pay the first 5 years in advance with one payment. That would then allow us to submit an application for reimbursement. Mr. Janke moves, is there support?
I'll support it.
Mr. Wareham supports. We have a motion and support to execute the licensing agreements with
Grudgingly.
Mdot.
I was saying, can we do that? Can we say it begrudgingly?
I move
'Cause-
grudgingly. Okay, go ahead.
Duly noted.
Yes.
A motion and support relative to the two licensing agreements for our water and sewer lines relative to the railroad grade between Woodside and Mason to include the community of Mason. Any further discussion on the motion? It's an inclusive motion, both licenses, both leases, in essence. Hearing no further discussion, Ms. Houle, could we have a roll call vote on this, please?
Did you forget her name?
Ms. Gardner?
Wow.
This
Is
chick
this-
over
wait,
here.
wait, wait till the time it is. Oh, man, we're pushing limits.
Yeah, we
here.
are.
I-
Mr. Janke?
I suppose.
Okay. Mr. Wareham?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Thank you. We'll notify Don Van Holst of our action. We'll also request a phone call that will probably take place as early as tomorrow morning, if we can pay the first 5 years relative to the sewer lease in advance. And we'll move the documentation forward and get it down to them in a matter of days or a couple of weeks. Thank you. Semco request, item C, pending more information still. The process hasn't stalled, but we haven't gotten any update from our last meeting. So. Item D, office manager position, we've talked about it a couple of times already. We have interest but no applicants. Under new business, we have the salary table.
You forgot
Oh, wait,
me.
we got
Forgot
land
me and that
division.
thing.
Oh, and land split, I'm sorry, I looked right at it and I got, I'm sorry, the land split in, Tamarack City. I believe, Ms. Earhart's recommendation, if we consider approving it, is that the house there are 3 lots in a row. The largest of the 3 is the one, nearest what, Maple, right? And she is recommending, because of the location of the house in the center lot, that the property line be moved 10 feet, I believe it is, into the larger lot from the middle lot, creating a space behind the house that isn't in the other property. I would believe the house is right on, and in one instance is actually a few inches beyond the property line. It's all owned by the same person.
I mean, that sounds like a good move too. I mean, even snow you're not allowed to put on adjoining property, so.
She owns it though.
Yeah.
It would,
But I'm just saying that if it wasn't always in that ownership.
Mhm.
it would be one of the recommendations. The other was that, in conversation with her, I believe we have the latitude to, if we approve the split, that would permit development of the small front property on M26 and Second Street, that there be some conditions identified for its use, that it needs to be developed within a specific period of time, et cetera.
What is she, what are they splitting? There's 3 lots there, they're not, what are they
So
splitting?
2 lots, they
Well,
wanna
there's
make
2
3.
lots, but they wanna
Okay,
split
I got
that
3.
little,
They want,
the front lot on
There's 2 large
M26,
lots
and
right
yeah.
now, and
they wanna split a small lot into another lot, and that's
Yeah,
what
I know
she's
that.
saying, she's saying that it's non-standard lots.
Well, the one toward the highway will never be sold as an individual lot, unless we make them put some on it.
And that's what
That's
is,
what she's going
that
for.
is our.
That's the problem
yeah.
with a non-standard lot, is
Yeah.
that if you're gonna put an ice cream stand out there, or what are you gonna do, you know, cause, I mean, otherwise it ain't worth anything,
It's
you know.
not, nobody buy it either, so.
So it'll just end up in we'll just end up owning it like we own the triangle over here, or whatever, you know, I mean, it just ends up in your stuff, because or the county, because you can't.
The questions are all valid, and things that we've discussed with Ms. Earhart and amongst ourselves and what have you, is that it is a significantly undersized lot. and that possibly if we agree to the split that is being requested, that there has to be a time frame for the development of that front lot. So,
I mean, I think I wanna see what they're gonna put on it in their plan. Do they have that?
I don't think they have any, they
I
haven't
don't-
been told they have to do it yet.
I mean, we can act like a zoning department right now if we want to, because we are in control of this. And we can say, we expect this to be on there, or you have to show us what you're gonna put on there, or we're not gonna approve this.
That's exactly what she's saying.
Yeah,
and we're reacting to the recommendations from the assessor at this moment because the issue of approving the land split is still tabled.
Right.
So
I get that part.
what I might suggest based on the discussion is that we invite the property owner to our next meeting to discuss intent.
I don't know if I even wanna discuss it. I think I want something on,
We need it
I want
right.
something hard, like a zoning like I submit all the time to zoning boards, approved plan set for what they're planning on putting there, and I don't feel like we should split it and just leave it open-ended, you know, and then say, well, we'd like to hear from you, and you can come in here and verbally tell us what you're gonna do there, and then, I don't think I'm interested in that. I think I want more here, because otherwise we're making a lot that's,
You know, if they show us a plan, then we'll
Problematic.
consider the
Yes.
split.
Then I think that sums it up, that we're in reaction to the assessor's recommendation / report.
which I like the last part of it, where you still have two lots, you're just moving the line, basically.
Yeah.
That we'll articulate to the property owner intent, there's a motion, we're not taking the issue of the split off the table yet, but we would like to review a plan, a specific plan for the use of the property to include the small lot that would be the result of a split of the front lot if approved.
And I'm gonna warn you, if it's commercial, you don't get to, commercial's a whole different game than residential stuff. You're gonna have to have somebody that designs it, you know, I mean,
Yeah, you can't just put up a building so.
you can't, commercial buildings require engineers, no matter how big or small, you know, so that, this stuff, I would expect to see a site plan where I understand what they're gonna do with snow, I understand what they're gonna do with parking, I understand what they're gonna do with a storefront type or a frontage type thing, so I would like to see an elevation. I wanna know what they're gonna do there.
May I suggest that the board then submit to the office the expectations or criteria they believe would have to be met, and we can put that in a form of correspondence to the property owner and say, would you kindly respond to this? Before we consider the land split, we would like them to review the plan and have you articulate what you intend to do based on the plan submitted.
Gonna have a dumpster outside, I mean, where are you gonna, you're gonna shrink this lot down, and then what are you gonna do with all these things?
I agree with what you're saying, that's the way we should approach
Okay,
it.
well then, because the idea of the land split is still tabled, we're reacting to what our assessor has told us, and now what we wanna do is put correspondence together to the property owner to define precisely their intent and their plan, and here are the conditions we would hope you would meet, or are expected to meet.
Yes, have to be.
How are we gonna come up with these conditions?
Well, you just
I think-
articulated several,
I
that's just it.
I did, but I think that
We're not zoned, so that creates a
no, but
wrinkle
we
for
can,
us.
yeah, not really when it comes to this one. We can require whatever we
Well,
want.
and then that's what we need in the office is input as to what you think we can or should require of them, and we can put that out to them in the correspondence for them to respond to.
Yeah.
And then ask them to come to a meeting and explain their plan.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Did somebody make that motion?
You just gotta do it.
It's fine if you did.
No, I can't.
You can say I did.
Don did.
What's the motion?
The motion is to provide them a detailed request for information and their plan relative to the use of the property that would be impacted by a land split. And we want various criteria met in their explanation. Is that your motion, Mr. Wareham?
Yes.
Thank you. Do I have
Well, we
support?
don't know what that criteria is yet.
I know, that's why I'm
Right.
asking for input, but I'm premature. The motion hasn't been approved yet. Is there support for the motion?
Sure.
We have a motion and support. I as part of the discussion, if you'll permit me, is that forwarding criteria that you think need to be part of the correspondence is critical to its success. So,
From
as
you
we-
guys, is what he's saying.
I'm totally on board with that, I can help you, I can help you with, there's some specific things here that just about every community that deals with this stuff looks at, and I can pass those on.
That's what I was
fairly
hoping
easy.
you'd say, thank you.
Thank you.
So, I mean,
I'm just on the same
I
page.
spit a couple of them out that are
If we do
specific
nothing to
to our
that rock,
region.
we're gonna end up with it, it's a
Yeah.
piece of crap,
Yeah.
so.
So,
Perfect.
we need to capture prior to the end of the month, so we can get a letter out and invite them to respond ideally before our next meeting. Unless their timetable is more protracted, and we say at your leisure, but by January, so. I can give, the gentleman a call, based on our discussion too, what if the motion is passed. Anything else relative to the motion and support? Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and I apologize, I didn't restate the motion.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay, thank you,
No.
thank you.
We'll figure it out.
Oh, find my agenda. Okay,
Just-
land split, no, new business. There, in your packet is a draft salary table. Please note that the water supervisor's salary is not complete. The default position would be to add 5% to the figures identified, but I have 3 different salaries for that position from 3 different sources internally, and I just need to figure out which one is the right one. The one I would prefer to use is the one off of the W-2 from the last tax period, which is a little over, what, 21,105 if I recall correctly. But there's another figure that may not be entirely accurate because it may include the part-time help for the water system as part of the overall salary for the water system. So I'm looking at 3 different figures, the one on the table, the one on the W-2, and the one on the worksheet that may be a combined figure relative to the water system's backup / assistant. I'm going, which one do I use? So I use the W-2 is not reflected on that, that's the combining of the figures off of budgets. So the W-2 had a figure of 21,000, I believe, 105 or something like that.
These two, it's 22 something with your raise.
So there's a suggested percentage and some hourly rate increases as a draft, obviously, with a proposed effective date of not this month, but next month, so there would be ample time to look at this feedback and what have you, and even discuss at our December 8th meeting, because if there is something wrong with it, we could always amend it at that time. Because none of this would get paid out until the end of December, correct? We pay after the month's work is done, so. We wouldn't be, there's a recommendation also at the bottom that it not be retroactive in any instance. It's simply forward-looking.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it is really a COLA adjustment based on the significant rate of inflation we're experiencing right now. Cost of living has jumped 6% on an annualized basis over the last 8 or 9 months. The previous 2 fiscal years, we were dealing with figures less than 2%. So, questions, thoughts, ideas?
Mine was going down.
You know, we're just bringing Tamarack up to the same as we did for the others, but
Same,
No, it says
yeah,
current, suggested,
keeping the, yeah,
suggested change.
no.
doing 50 for each board,
Yeah,
each
that's- I know
meeting,
it's-
so they're the same,
So the current is 35, the suggestion should be 50,
right.
correct?
The impact should have been 50.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
like-
Maybe a typo.
Yeah.
And that is
That's
something
right.
that,
Huh?
That is right.
No, if the current, like, if you look up at the maintenance guy, he's going from 16, the suggested is 17, the change or impact is $1.
Right.
Oh,
So if we look at the current is
Yeah,
35, the suggested is,
50.
should be 50, and the change should be
Oh,
15.
yeah,
Oh, I get
the
it.
numbers are
Yeah.
inverted, that's all.
Okay.
So, I did look at that stuff that you guys gave me. Looks like they have around approximately 1,000 hours of 1,000 hours for maintenance is what we had, last year,
Okay.
or for the last 12 months, let's say. So $1 is $1,000 to our budget.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just throwing that out there. We talked about, a little bit about what is 17 good. Sounds like you have interest already, so
Yes.
maybe that's not a problem. It's
Yeah,
probably
and I
not
think
an
we
issue.
have interest at the existing salary.
Okay, that's fine. So, I don't know what those water supervisor, salaries amount to in terms of,
I just did it.
did you?
Well, if you take Bob's, if you take the two of them, and this is at the new rate, okay?
They look a little low to me.
It's a little over $22,000. He's 40 hours a week, right?
No, I don't think so.
mm-mm.
Well, he's
not.
on call.
He's in a non-call position.
I mean, if he
Yeah.
was 40 hours a week, he makes $12 an hour.
So, I don't know does he actually turn a time card in, or does he only
No.
turn a time card in for time that
His
he has a
salary.
special, he has another
So
rate
he
though that
just
he does
goes by
turn time
salary.
card in for, right?
No.
He never turns a
Salary.
time card in?
Yeah, my understanding it's a salaried position.
Okay. I don't know what his time on task for that job is.
And it looks like we're giving him $1,000 raise, is what it looks like to me.
Well, this is, no, with regards to the water system, the supervisor's salary is the anomaly. It wasn't worked up. You just have numbers that came out as current.
I mean, that's what he's agreed to, right?
That's,
I just don't think it's.
the water supervisor, those are current costs. The projections are in there at 5%.
Yeah, I guess.
But his salary in the past year was is comparable to those figures, cause that's an update from the,
Okay.
that I had. So yeah, it was
Okay.
21,105 or something like that.
And the new,
So I think there's a number that when he used to work his water budget up, he would chuck a number into the water supervisor's thing.
Mhm.
And I thought that's what he was getting paid, but maybe that's not what he's getting paid?
No, I recall, this is going back to Tamarack City Water, Utility Board meetings, back when we called it water. And he would propose a salary increase, and then we would recommend something different. And then the board, I think he was, in one example, and I'm going from memory, so I'm looking at Mr. Warren for confirmation, but I think he asked for 5%, and we endorsed 3%, or something like that.
But the only thing he's doing on that side of things is basically reading meters.
maintenance right now,
Yeah.
that's all he's doing, not much maintenance at all, just reading.
No,
meters
he's just
and
basically reading meters. Now, he has to do it twice a month, or twice as much as here,
Yeah.
but here he's doing way more. He's doing water sampling and, a lot of, maintenance down at, you've got a pump house here, and
He
so,
does very little of that time. I
yeah,
believe that's
so,
what-
so I'm fine with this, yeah.
A footnote to this is an offer going forward because there have not been salary increases in the township or any adjustments really for over 2 years. The last 2 fiscal years, we did not make any increases, if I recall correctly. So the salaries and the rates that everybody's getting, we're working off of stuff that was approved roughly 3 fiscal years ago. We also have budget meetings coming up again in March. And what we're simply doing is saying, in recognition of what staff have been doing, whatever, this will at least provide a modest increase. We'll look at it again when we have a clear picture of revenue, what we can use money for, and what our costs are anticipated to be going forward. And we might be in a position to adjust again going into next fiscal year, perhaps we won't. But if we approve this, we will have at least a higher base for people, recognizing, people have done a lot of fine work for the township, and rewarding them with a modest increase in their hourly or salary rate. this is simply a draft, pulling things together based on all of our conversations. And we can tweak it again in December if we like, just by, if we were to approve this for planning purposes, we can approve in December the application of this. Because they need a budget with salaries to complete the budget portion of the township budget, I recall our conversation earlier, and this would permit them to do that. So we could approve it for planning purposes tonight, and approve it if we like it when we see figures flushed out more appropriately at the December meeting. That seems like a reasonable approach, because we could approve them in December and pay them at the end of December, correct? Okay, so,
Mark,
yes,
just, I don't know if this will help, but the meter reader for water in Ripley gets $16 an hour.
I know this
Okay.
person has to know,
Just,
right?
it all
So
helps.
it's not
Jim.
that far
We're-
out,
yeah,
yeah.
we're trying to compare apples and apples
Yeah.
where applicable, but we're also trying to look wholly and solely at Osceola Township.
How many hours do they work?
Ours?
they read them,
Right here.
every other month.
So
Oh,
they're,
okay.
it's 12 plus 4 plus 2.
Okay, so they are, okay. I was looking at their deputies thinking, oh, they get,
No,
I
they're,
gotta start reading before I.
Yeah, and the deputies' increases, they're used rarely.
I don't think it really has that much effect
I
on our.
first
It
classified
has
it,
almost
I
no
thought the
effect. I
deputies
mean,
make more
they're in a
labor.
few
I mean,
hundreds
to
of
be honest
dollars.
with you, you're asking somebody to come in and take time out of their day to just come in and help out, not for much money,
Exactly.
Right.
you know?
Without
They're not really getting it.
recognition, again, of their work on our behalf.
They come in and they give you
And
20
we're
hours of
required
work,
to have
Yeah.
them.
you know,
Yeah.
so, um,
I'm
I'm
suggesting
fine with that.
a two-part approach, that we approve this for planning purposes, and then we endorse it at our December meeting if we're comfortable with it. For
Or
immediate
tweak it at
application.
that meeting if need be,
Pardon?
or tweak it at that meeting.
Or
if
tweak
need
it,
be.
absolutely, yeah. But if we approve it for planning purposes tonight, with the intent of endorsing it in December, in one way, shape, or form, at least we can put budgets together, or a budget together now, with salaries in it. Do I have a motion to that effect, to approve it for planning purposes at tonight's meeting, with the intent of endorsing it, with adjustments where applicable at the December meeting?
Wait, so you wanna wait till the December meeting to put these in effect?
Well, I wanted, they would be effective in December anyway.
I feel like
That's
they're,
the plan.
oh, okay.
But we
Their
got,
effective date 12/1,
yep,
no retroactive, even if we approve it in December, they're still effective 12/1.
still effective 12/1,
Okay,
that I
that's
understand.
fine. Yeah,
But
I'm
for
fine.
planning purposes, now we can put the
I
township
mean, I'm
budget
fine with
together.
it, to be honest with you. I don't think I have to wait, I don't know if I
Well,
need.
I'm asking, what's your
I
preference?
do a little bit.
You do wanna wait?
Well,
Okay.
here's my
I'm
thing,
fine.
and you can chop this whatever you want to, but. I remember her going ape crap during that election a year ago. Okay, all the extra work she did.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not saying an hourly increase. Can you give her a $500 bonus for the work?
There are some technicalities around carving things out, but we have some ideas that we haven't flushed out fully about how to compensate for people that have had tremendous burdens placed on their position as a result of
Because
state
the
law.
COVID and the state law,
It's
yeah.
unfunded, state mandated, you know, the new election law passed by the citizens in what, 18, has raised havoc with election officials all across the state at the local and county level.
So the hard part about that is that her salary, already includes that, so bonusing for something that's already included is gonna be tough. We have to look at how we're gonna do that carefully. It's not that I mind the increase, it's just that we gotta be really careful how we go
That's
about
what
that.
we're working on, your point is well made.
The only reason I'm saying is that it wasn't a normal election, she had to go back and count ballots by hand, so there was extra stuff, even though it was the same stuff, it was. more
It
of
could
the
be like
same
that
stuff.
forever from now on.
I think the thing to remember, if I may interject, is that the salaries that were in place in and around the 2018 election really haven't changed that much.
No, I know they
But
have.
the work relative to the position of clerk has increased dramatically because of elections. And that we're trying to figure out a way to compensate for. All this is doing is recognizing what's taken place over the last 2+ years, 2 2/3 years, if you will, where inflation and whatever is chewed into purchasing power. It says you're valued. This is a recognition of that, modest though it be. We're gonna be plowing through budgets in March, looking more definitively at our resources and time on task, and to Don's point, we may say, well, we need to make an adjustment to go to something Christa raised earlier in the discussion about how many elections are there in a year? And those elections consume not the usual 20 hours they used to be, but now they're consuming 40 to 60 hours, just by way of example.
A week.
Yeah, and we're not compensating for that, but here's how we do that, by drawing an average number of elections, putting a price on each election, and adding that to the clerk's salary, and it sits there.
So a suggestion was made by a clerk to go hourly, and I don't know what your take is on going hourly.
Not
You
sure.
base your salary on, so I make X amount a month for my salary, I cannot exceed that unless it's an election cycle. So when you're on hourly, because I'm bound to this salary. Okay, but if you pay hourly, then I'm not.
So is that okay to do,
I don't know.
for elected people?
I don't know.
There's
I
a
don't
lot of
think- I don't know.
controversy over
don't
it, and
know.
that's what we're trying to get
I
answers
feel
to.
like,
But
the
that came
problem
from
here
the
is you're,
county
as
clerk.
being an elected official, like even if you ran for state rep or something.
Right,
You get this.
Right.
This is what you get.
Right.
Cause you ran for it, you know, and so, you know, I don't see any other elected officials in the state of Michigan, I don't know of any that get paid on an hourly basis, even a guy like the mine inspector and the drainage commissioner and
Right.
stuff, those guys,
Right.
they're stuck with whatever the number is
Right.
that they ran for, you know?
Right.
So, one thing I do know is that you can bump this up, but once you bump it up, you can't take it back down, so you
Right.
can't, whatever, you can't base it on, this year you should get this much, and that year, then the next
well,
year,
and that's
you
where
can't do
that
it that
comes
way.
in,
So
because then you're
this
not,
is a really sticky
Yeah.
thing here.
It's
That's
hard.
what we're wrestling with.
It's
There's
hard.
also another variable that we all have to be cognizant of, and that is that elected officials have salaries reviewed. There's an opportunity for the public to provide input, and we have to be cognizant of that. And we're trying to balance the workloads with available resources to find common ground and an acceptable level. And again, going back to what I said a moment ago, and I think we've got a motion, do we not, and support for planning purposes and a decision retroactive back to December 1st to be made on the 8th, should we approve everything? That's the motion, correct? This discussion then has been on variables inside that motion? Okay.
Let me, so.
Any further discussion on the motion?
Mark, can I just
No,
ask?
actually, no, you can't, Jim, that's just it.
Oh, okay,
I'd love to, Jim, but you can't. You can hold it for public comment.
okay.
Yeah, just make it then.
So, when I run the numbers based on,
Who supported? Nobody got any.
Based
I
on-
thought Aaron supported it.
I had Aaron making the motion.
Oh, then, Don had a question. I'm sorry, we have a motion on the floor still without support?
I don't have it.
Okay, then really, we need to have a support for Aaron's motion for us to continue with this, people, if I may, point of order?
hold on,
No, you got a motion on the floor, we got either support or we gotta stop the discussion. Is there support for the motion?
We're kind of discussing.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing, I thought you had made it, supported it and then had reservations, but I misunderstood. Is there support for Mr. Janke's motion relative to planning and then a decision next month?
We were all supportive.
Okay, now we have support so that the discussion can continue relative to the motion. Are there issues that need to come to everyone's attention right now from anyone's perspective relative to the draft chart for planning purposes? Anybody else have an additional comment or question?
But that's based on, I know.
Gentlemen, are you ready to vote? Then, all in favor of the motion to adopt the salary schedule for planning purposes at this time and to take definitive action on it at our December meeting on the 8th, retroactive back to the 1st of December, if approved, please indicate by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have a salary table for planning purposes. The final decision on that, on the table at the December meeting. And should we approve it, it would be retroactive back to the 1st of December. And I would ask that, please continue the discussions, once we move past the next agenda item, and provide as much input as you care to office staff in the preparation of any amendments, changes, or whatever. It is a planning document only at this time. Thank you. The other item I believe we had, there's one other item under new business.
Joint board meeting recommendations about the.
Joint water board, past due accounts.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. Thank you. I don't have it. We have a recommendation up from the joint water boards about how to proceed with past due accounts. And my understanding from that recommendation is that we follow the existing protocols in our ordinance relative to past due accounts. But there was also discussion about seeking input from individuals with past due accounts, how they would, to address them, and that formal notification goes out to people about past due accounts with a timetable or timeline for payment assumed in that process, and they would be more than welcome to come to our next board meeting. We could even invite them to explain how they would address the issue. Is that pretty much the matter? We're on the table for confirmation, so we would begin to notify people as early as next week about past due accounts and the expectation that they be paid, and that they'll have an opportunity to present a payment plan or other ideas to the board as early as the December meeting. But there is an expectation right now of full payment of past due accounts.
that's what that group came to.
Yep.
I mean,
That's all it is.
and that's, I did reiterate that to, you know,
To one of the,
to one of the individuals that are, you know, of concern here, and, I said, if you really wanna having one more go at this, you need to come to a meeting, you know, that's where I left that, so, I mean,
certainly sounds appropriate.
I don't know where else,
What else can you do?
I mean, we're not changing any language in the ordinance
Nope.
at this time. So we're still, the door is still always open, under an extreme case, I would say. I don't know if I, you know, so,
Given the past due accounts and the recommendation coming up from the joint water board, joint utility board meeting, specific action from this board as to how to proceed. Is there a motion to go forward forthwith before the end of the month at all? That the individual, looking for a motion to notify people with past due accounts of the township's intent to collect the amount owed, an opportunity to present one's case, alternative plans, payment plans at all would be afforded at the opportunity, but there is an expectation of payment.
I will make a motion that we follow the recommendation of the joint committee, which states, recommended township board that collection of all money is necessary and to use payment plan if needed.
We have a motion from Mr. Wareham. Is there support?
I'll support.
Support from Ms. Houle. Is there any further discussion on the motion relative to the recommendation from the joint water board meeting to the township board as to how to proceed with delinquent accounts in the water system? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
alright,
Right?
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any additional items that we need to discuss tonight? From anyone's perspective?
What did we we just approve? Can we just back up for a second?
We approved a motion relative to the recommendations of the joint water board meeting that we go forward.
Right, no, I'm reading it, but, so,
We approved this recommendation.
We're in effect doing what the ordinance requires. We gotta go forward and try to collect.
Okay.
delinquent accounts.
I guess I had a misunderstanding because I specifically asked at that meeting if that's how we were gonna proceed going forward, that we would not look at other options for people, and I was told, no, that's not the case, we can do that. But we're saying that we're gonna make them pay the full amount regardless. Is that what the motion was?
Well, the motion says that we expect full payment, but they can offer alternatives, payment plans. That's part of what, read the last sentence of that.
The other part of that,
It just says use a payment plan if needed.
Sorry,
right,
even on mute it comes through. You can't
That's
talk.
I know.
What we do, the way I'm interpreting is that the expectation is that if you owe some money at the moment, we expect you to pay it. We are affording them an opportunity to come and offer an alternative to full payment at the next board meeting. Doesn't mean that we've closed the door, it's just that we've got to alert them the fact formally that they owe us this money and we expect it to be paid.
Okay,
and this.
So
And
that
then
was the
then
motion.
If a payment plan is necessary, then let's do that.
And if,
But
I don't think at any point do we close the door, cause still in the ordinance, there's still.
we
not
have
really-
flexibility.
there's flexibility in the
Okay.
ordinance and we
Okay.
haven't changed the ordinance.
Okay.
So we're in
It's
effect,
still up to us.
Yeah.
This,
Right.
it's still up to
Okay.
this board.
Okay, because okay.
we-
I just,
If
I
some-
would have changed my
You might-
answer
you
because
might
if all
wanna-
we were saying was he has to pay it, that is not, I don't agree with that. I think we
don't-
need to at least,
That kinda says that, I don't mean it to say that.
well,
Okay.
we're falling back on the ordinance
I
then.
went back on the recommendation, what we're doing.
okay. Thank you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, this is
Absolutely not.
important
It's
because we wanna
perfectly
get it
fine.
right. What we're doing is we're informing people of a past due amount.
Mhm.
We're telling them that we expect payment. We tell them they can provide a payment plan, they can come and provide always an alternative to what we're requesting by using the clause in the ordinance that says on a case-by-case basis, we can waive things. We're not amending the ordinance with this, we're simply saying that you still owe this money and nothing's happened.
Mhm.
You're not paying on it, we expect then full payment. But you can enter into a plan, or you can come and present to the board an alternative. And we may ask people, and they will probably exercise that right, come back and say, but can you do this instead? Or why do I have to, or something to that effect.
Okay.
And give them a full hearing again under the ordinance.
Okay.
That, am I
Yeah,
capturing the gist of it?
Yeah, what originally he wrote a letter, or one of the individuals wrote a letter,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and then that's when I suggested we go to the joint water, I wanted to get the joint utility board take on it.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's still us though.
Right,
I
right.
just wanted to make sure that, we were getting, we were informing all the people that are involved with this, and.
The ordinance is part of the township, the water boards are just recommending it.
Yeah.
Right,
We
so-
can Still do what we want.
I wanted to involve them at the time, so there's really, to be honest with you, there's still that letter out there. But what I'm getting from that utility board down there is there's nothing that's been presented so far to date that says, no, you don't have to,
Yeah,
you don't
okay.
have to pay that right now.
Gotcha.
I think that's.
Nothing as
important.
of yet really
Right.
says to that group or, now if he comes in and he presents something that's, in my opinion, very convincing or some kind of hardship or something like that, I just can't do this.
They had said nothing to us except the fact that they're not paying it.
I don't know what they can present,
Right.
but maybe there's something.
And I think perhaps to bring a sense of closure to the point is that have we formally notified our delinquent account holders of the expectation of the township that those bills be paid? Have letters gone out to them saying, this is what you owe, this is our expectation, you can enter into a payment plan, here's the timelines we have.
Well, we have a red tag system for that too,
Mhm.
Agreed, but I don't think we formally notified them in
I
writing.
don't think those people in Tamarack have any idea what they owe.
And that's what we'll do. We're really putting out a letter saying,
No, I
you
think
still
that
owe us
account
this
has
money.
been taken care of.
Krista?
That's a different one.
I'm sorry.
It came
No, I was
out-
just calling on you to finish your thought.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, you're thinking of the White House that was
Yeah.
purchased?
I don't,
We just went through this on our water board.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, the one that
There's
was
two of
spilling
them
water
there.
out the window of the crawl space or something, I think is the one we're
This,
talking
this
about.
one, the one we're talking about is a Blythe one, which was, it was down in their basement.
Yeah,
Pipe
The
road.
one that was paid was the gentleman on the corner.
with the same last name?
No, that was a different last name.
There's a different account down there with a broken pipe.
I'm gonna have to look, cause I think they came in and paid it.
Blythe did?
Yeah,
That's
Okay,
the one I
double
was
check,
thinking.
and then we're only sending out one letter. But if we haven't, we're formally notifying the party in question
Yes.
that there's a past due amount, we expect payment. And we'll send them the ordinance, we'll even highlight the portion where they can.
And then what, that, no payment enters them into normal ordinance repercussions,
We
right?
go under the ordinance itself, if we follow the procedures in the ordinance unless and until they present and we accept in whole or in part what they ask us to do. But we'll put a timeline on the letter, saying, you know, we have so many days, weeks, a month to respond.
I don't want that store to go anywhere.
can we, is this appropriate time to discuss, I mean, can I bring something up as far as that's concerned?
Kind of rolled through it either. It's a
With the
business
past due
account.
balances and stuff?
Relative to
Not
the
to the
motion that we
specific-
just approved, or just generally about the
No, this
circumstance?
is, well, the circumstance.
If you'd like to take a moment,
I'm willing to
right
listen.
now and explain
Absolutely.
circumstance, please do.
Yeah, well, the question I have, and I'm starting to see as I'm going through the water accounts, there's people with very large balances, they've probably not made a single payment in 2 years. And like one in particular is well over $1,000, and I know if I put that on their taxes, the bank is not gonna pay it. I know they won't, because it's gonna make their payment, their mortgage payment go sky high. So now I'm left with, we've got this over $1,000 bill that I can't put on the taxes. I mean, I can put it on the taxes, but I guarantee you the bank is not gonna pay it.
So so when it's on the taxes and the bank doesn't pay it, and I remember you talking about this,
Mhm.
the only time that this is gonna come to a head, and we could end up sitting on it for a while, right? Or does or will, the county won't make us whole on this, right? They don't make us whole at any point?
The county would, however, what she told me is that she will not foreclose on a property on a delinquent water. So if they're paying their base taxes, but they're not paying the water, she will not foreclose.
But
And-
she would still give us our money?
She would give us the money initially, but if it came down to like, it's not getting paid, or I guess if that's the only thing out there, she probably would not pay us.
Okay, so basically that would sit on their tax bill, and you guys can stop me if you want to, but I'm just trying to run this through my head, until at some time that property changes hands,
Mhm.
correct?
Mhm.
And at that time, then it would end up getting paid.
Mhm.
So the bill could go out there and sit out there for a long, long time, you know, but eventually it would get paid to the township at some time. Every property changes hands eventually.
Well, the problem is that, like, normally, if you don't pay your taxes, if you're delinquent on your taxes, it goes to the county then sends, puts fees on it, sends them notifications. It goes through like a 3-year process where they have a chance to fix it, then she can foreclose on it.
I get it.
If this bill only had that delinquent water,
She's
she
not
would not
foreclosing.
move it to that process.
So the only time that you could get this is when it was either sold or had changed hands because of death or some reason, I mean, it could be
Essentially.
30 years away before we ever saw that money.
Essentially,
Through
and,
that
and
route.
somehow we would, because I can't, you wouldn't be able to just keep putting it on the bill, well, I mean, I guess
So let
I
me-
could put it on the bill.
So let me ask you this, if you move that to the taxes, can it still be on the water bill, or is it now over, once it's over on the, once you
Yeah,
move it to the taxes, does it come off the water bill?
Yeah, it gets cleared off the water, because we expect that the money would come. But my concern is and I
I'm
mean, it's
just
not a
asking.
lot, but there's a few out there that,
Sure.
I don't think they paid at all through the whole COVID and the whole thing. And the one in particular, I guarantee you the bank is not gonna give us the money for it,
So,
because
but
it would make their
once we put
mortgage
it on the
payment
taxes-
really high.
once we put it on the taxes, we lose our ability to
Go after that.
shut the water off.
Yes.
Yeah.
The water's already off at this one in particular, so it doesn't really matter. Actually, we have two, now that I think about it, same
Well-
situation.
I
Okay,
think we need to get to the bottom of how many past due / delinquent accounts we have.
Mhm.
Because the fact of the matter is, as we talk repeatedly at these meetings, the people that are paying the bills, the people that are paying on time,
Mhm.
they're the ones carrying the costs of the
Mhm.
system for the people that, for whatever reason, cannot or choose not to pay a water bill. And what we need, to the degree humanly possible, is close to 100% compliance with the payment schedule as is humanly possible. We gotta get, otherwise,
everybody's gonna stop paying.
exactly, because if
I mean,
that's
why
all
would you pay
gotta
if there's
do-
no reason to pay?
Right.
I don't
There
care.
has, and
What
what
my
we're,
taxes, I don't care for 50 years.
we're
no
in
matter
a
me when I'm
painful
dead.
discussion about the consequences of not paying your bills and how it's gonna impact on a household or an individual. But regrettably, we can't function in an environment where the people that are expected to pay
Okay.
aren't paying.
Mhm.
So we need to be, in my opinion, professional, polite, but firm in our approach, and be understanding if there is a rational, objective, legitimate reason why something can't happen, then we can make adjustments or what have you, just as our ordinance permits. But we really can't be carrying any significant number, really any number of people with significant past due accounts. Water's already gone through their property, through the meter, and the money is owed to us, and we're trying to budget for everyone's benefit, including theirs.
Mhm.
If they're not paying us, they're not carrying the load. There are extenuating circumstances, then we'll take them case by case, just as the ordinance permits.
I agree,
Yeah, that's what we're wrestling with it because we wanna do the
I
right
mean,
thing.
this is
by
a
them
hard
too,
thing to
but it's
do,
a
it
hard thing.
really is.
My hugest
Hit the nail on
concern
the head.
is that I can only put them on the winter taxes. So I've only got a couple of weeks that I can take any of those. None of these people have been sent a letter at all. And with some of the ones that have such huge balances, if we go a whole nother year where they don't pay, I mean, these are gonna be huge, and then what are we gonna do?
We'll get
That's
letters
my
out. You and I
concern.
will, Tracy, you and I will.
I
work
just
together.
don't, I mean, we can send out the letters, but I feel like if I don't, I feel like I'm running out of time, and I'm not gonna have time to put
Well,
them on
that-
taxes
And if it
this
doesn't,
year.
it sounds to me like if it doesn't go on the taxes right now, it's really not the end of the world, I guess is what I'm saying, for us. Because as soon as it goes on the taxes, we lose some hammers. And it doesn't sound like,
Well, if it's a small enough balance, the banks just pay them. If they start getting too big, the bank is gonna refuse to pay it because they're not
it's
gonna
not a
want
part
to
of their
change.
escrow or whatever it
Right.
is, yeah.
Yeah,
it's-
they're not gonna wanna raise their escrow
Let's see what we
too
can do to
much.
get letters out to people that are behind or delinquent.
Okay, alright,
We needed this discussion.
It had to happen.
I'm sorry.
No, this was
Wonderful.
important, because now we know
Do I
what
get
we're
to
dealing
keep
with,
it?
it's more than
No.
one or two. It could be several, it could be a dozen. Anything else that we need to discuss, and frankly, we needed that conversation from our perspective.
Were we gonna do anything, for, just asking, were we gonna do anything over for Quincy's for Christmas this year or not? I mean, sometimes we did, and I don't think did we do that last year?
No,
No.
we
Because
canceled
it was
it
COVID thing,
last
and I'm
year,
just,
and
I'm
the
just
year
throwing it
before.
out there, I mean, next month is the, would be the
Well,
month.
we meet early in December, we're meeting on the 8th, so why don't we look at any type of festivities as an agenda item, see what we can do then.
Well, normally you do it, right?
We had a
do-
short meeting and then we
We
went.
usually had a short meeting and then we went.
Well, then,
Mhm.
if that's acceptable, we will plan for a shorter meeting and everybody will go. How's that for next month? We'll ask Quincy.
And everybody goes to Quincy's.
See what
Dutch,
we can do.
Yeah.
you know.
All right,
Well, we'll pay it all bill.
Yeah, it's our, it's just,
Yeah.
Chance to get together.
yeah.
okay. Duly noted. Anything else before I call for public comment one last time?
Please do.
You like that, don't you? Yeah.
If I
Short
may,
meeting.
excuse me, we have reached the end of our agenda as amended, and there's a final
Oh, did we
opportunity for,
vote?
excuse me?
No, I don't think we did.
We didn't
probably
vote on
have to.
this.
We didn't vote on that? Oh, I apologize. Would you repeat the motion, please?
No.
No.
This is
Talk
all messed
about-
up now.
Motion to notify residents with expectations of payments.
Yeah, I like it.
It's short.
Shorten to the point.
Okay.
All in favor of the motion, now that I've been reminded, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Ms. Houle. Appreciate appreciate that. Now, we have reached a point where there's no additional items for us to discuss. Anybody has anything? Thank you. One last opportunity, if I may, for public comment. Mr. Sira, you had something a moment ago that I rather tersely said you can't do it right now, but Jim, please.
Okay, this would be for the clerk there, the clerk in Franklin Township with the extra hours she had to put in. She approached the board there, she said, I have to miss a whole days of work, extra days of work. And what we came up with was, whatever you missed from work, we would reimburse you for your wages lost because you couldn't be at your job.
The comp time.
And I don't know if you can do that.
I think that's questionable.
Yeah, we can explore the idea, Jim, though. I appreciate the input. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your understanding earlier as to why I had to do what I did, so I appreciate that.
And when you
Thanks.
send the bills out, you're gonna put a copy of the ordinance with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just asked that, cause like sometimes the sewer, we're having some people not paying the sewer bills, we have a lot of rentals in Ripley. And so I said, give me copies of the ordinance, I will hand deliver them, you know. But we're trying to get the landlords, when they rent them out, just put the sewer bill right in the rent.
That's what we do.
I mean,
It's a part of
these
our
young
ordinance
kids
now
there,
that
they
it's-
just don't,
They're not, the renters don't pay, so we make the owners pay now.
Yeah.
There's no rent, we don't, the owner of the property now in Osceola Township pays the bill.
Jim, thank you. Anything else?
that's it.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your input. From a personal standpoint, thanks for your understanding.
No problem.
Anybody else with public comment before we adjourn the meeting? Have an opportunity for up to 3 minutes, and please identify yourself if you have anything you'd like to add.
Yes, I'm curious, this meeting raised a question for me, that I have a question, so I'm going to
You're
stand here.
gonna identify yourself,
Yes,
Cindy?
I'm gonna stand here so that I can be seen.
Oh.
I'm Cindy Barth, and I'm a property owner, and I record these meetings that go on Yooper Cares. So I'm curious as to, how will the people that watch this video on Yooper Cares be able to provide public input on the Osceola suggested staff budget draft? Will there be a scheduled meeting for public input on the Osceola draft budget before the December meeting?
At this moment, not likely, but people can comment at any time to the staff during normal business hours, by email if they choose to. They can comment by writing a letter. So there is input opportunities across the spectrum. There's probably not going to be a special meeting relative to the planning document approved this evening. We'll make a decision on its finality at the December meeting. And of course, the meeting will be open to the public, and people could comment either before the meeting gets to the issue in the early public comment, or if they hear something during the meeting, they would have an opportunity, as always at the end of the meeting, to offer input and comment. But they have every opportunity to provide their thoughts and ideas to the township on any issue really that the township is engaged in. But there will probably not be, looking at the board, specific special meetings relative to the budget until the budget cycle begins in February, March of next calendar year for the budget for the 22-23 fiscal year, to answer your question.
Will there be any Zoom meeting provided at all for people making comments about the budget? Or a special meeting on Zoom
There is
through
no,
Osceola, because Osceola can do it, correct?
Osceola has not
If they
made a
choose.
decision relative to Zoom. We are not participating in a video meeting platform at this moment. But as always, we take ideas and thoughts like that under consideration. And should the board at a future meeting decide, due to circumstance or desire, whatever the rationale or belief is at that time, to provide an electronic platform, the board would make that decision and go forward with it. At this moment, we're following all of the requirements set forth in the state of Michigan for our meeting protocols that we're aware of, and we are not required to provide an electronic
I don't think we're even
platform.
allowed to do electronic platform that allows a response.
Yeah, we have not declared
There's no
special
Zoom-
circumstance.
she's asking for a Zoom meeting that allows for
Her to comment.
comment, and I don't believe that we are even allowed to do that at all.
Okay.
That may
cannot-
be the case, under general circumstances, and we're operating under general
I
circumstances.
think the only township right now that is allowed to do that is Portage, because I think that ends, or may have already ended.
Cause they did
There was
state
a
of
declared
emergency.
state of
They declared a
emergency
state of
that
emergency.
permitted them
That's
to
the
do that. That's right.
only municipality around that I think can even do that right now.
Okay. So the people that comment on Yooper Cares about the budget, staff, wages, then that would be forwarded to the township?
If that is the prerogative of the people managing that particular site, they would have every opportunity to forward that input like any other input to the township for consideration.
Okay. So nothing scheduled before the December meeting for public input, just the next December Osceola Township meeting?
At this moment, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody with anything else? We'll close the second public comment. We've reached the end of our agenda. Anything that anyone would like to discuss before we call for a motion, I call for a motion to adjourn?
I was gonna say I'd like to discuss a motion to adjourn.
Hearing none, a motion to adjourn is in order. Was that a motion, Mr. Janke?
Yes, it was.
We have a motion from Mr. Janke, a support from Mr. Wareham, that the meeting be adjourned. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, we stand adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
You didn't have to go, right? It wasn't a fire.
Did you use recycle?
It was a first responder.
There's a
Yeah,
blue,
there's
yeah,
that